All right, let's talk about something that's running in the background of our lives all the time, but we almost never actually see it. We're going to call it wealth architecture.
You know, we've all been sold this idea, right? That if you want to get ahead, if you want real leverage, the answer is always do more. More hours, more effort, more hustle.
But the thing is, it doesn't.
So let's just dive right in and start tearing apart this myth of more. Let's figure out why working harder, well, why it just isn't working for so many of us.
Okay, think about your life, your business, your finances. They all have a kind of invisible blueprint, an architecture underneath. And here's the kicker. For most of us, that blueprint is flawed. It's a design that rewards being busy, rewards constant activity. But all that energy, it just kind of dissipates. It leads to burnout, not real, sustainable growth.
So what exactly do I mean by structure? Well, imagine it's like the plumbing in your house. It's the framework that all your effort flows through. And a good structure amplifies your work, turning it into something big and lasting. A bad one? Well, your effort just leaks out all over the place.
And this is where we need a really big shift in how we think. We're going to redefine leverage. It's not about pushing harder, it's about building smarter.
So you've got two ways of looking at this. The way most people see it is that leverage is all about applying more force, right? Go faster, push harder. But the architect's view is the total opposite. It's about needing less force. It's about designing something so strong, so non-fragile that it just works without you constantly having to muscle it forward.
And this is really the goal, isn't it? A well-designed structure, a solid system. It doesn't need you to babysit it 24/7. It's built to handle bumps in the road, to absorb the unexpected, all without you having to rush in and fix things. The efficiency is baked into the design itself, not your day-to-day struggle.
You know, we often think our lives are shaped by these big, dramatic decisions, but they're not. They're built on tiny, repeated actions. And this is why structure is so critical. Because your defaults, they will always, always win against your good intentions. Real consistency doesn't come from sheer willpower. It comes from a system that makes it easy. And look, momentum is always building, whether you're paying attention or not. So the real question is, what is your structure compounding? Good stuff or bad?
Okay, this might all sound a bit abstract, so let's bring it right back home. I mean that literally. Let's talk about your household as a system.
This is a really big one. That thing we call lifestyle, you know, how your money works, your stress levels, your health, it's not random. It's the direct result of the system you're living in. It's an architecture that's running in the background, whether you built it on purpose or just sort of stumbled into it.
And for so many people, this is the real problem. It's not that you lack discipline, it's that you lack visibility. It's like you're trying to fix a leaky pipe by mopping the floor. You're putting in all this effort on the symptom because you can't even see the broken structure that's causing the real problem.
So what happens if we just ignore all this?
Well, that's when things start to go wrong. And this is the scary part. Structures don't fail with a big bang. They fail quietly. It's a slow, silent erosion.
I mean, just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the inevitable decay that comes from neglect. On the other, you have strength that was built on purpose. See, failure isn't a single event. It's the quiet, gradual thinning of your margins, a slow creep of lower standards, until one day, the whole thing just gives way.
And let this one sink in for a second. By the time you notice the crisis, by the time it's obvious to everyone that things are broken, the real problem has been there, growing, for years. The collapse is just the moment it becomes too big to ignore.
And where does this happen? It happens in the gaps, in the space between our attention. Anything you aren't looking at isn't staying the same. Trust me, it's eroding.
Okay, so how do we fight this decay? How do we build something that lasts? This is what we'll call the architecture of enduring, and it's all about one thing, the discipline of being intentional with your design.
You know, a lot of people think building something strong means building something rigid, something that resists change. But that's not it at all. True durability comes from designing a system that can bend without breaking. And that means you have to be absolutely clear on what's foundational, your non-negotiables, and what's just decoration.
And the active job of maintaining this kind of structure, we call that stewardship. It's not a one-time thing, it's a discipline. And it really boils down to making 3 crucial ongoing decisions.
First up, you have to decide what you will not optimize. In our world of hyper-efficiency, this sounds crazy, right? But some things, like your relationships or time for deep thinking or just rest, they need slack.
If you try to make them 100% efficient, you don't make them better. You make them fragile. You break them.
Number 2, what will you refuse to outsource? Look, it's tempting to delegate everything, but there are some core judgments about your values, your vision, that you simply cannot hand off to someone else. Because the moment you do, you start to lose the muscle, the ability to make those calls yourself.
And the third one is, what must always remain visible? It's easy to get lost in spreadsheets and dashboards, to get so far removed from the ground truth that you can't see what's really happening. And that is so dangerous. Bottom line, you cannot manage what you can't see.
So in the end, it all comes down to this really simple trade-off. The price you pay for this kind of clarity is constraint. You have to draw lines in the sand and say no to some things. But what you get in return is huge. You get the ability to build everything, your life, your work, your wealth, on solid ground.
Which really just leaves us with one last big idea to chew on. The structure you're living inside of right now is determining everything. It's setting the ceiling on what all your hard work can ever achieve. And the wild thing is, most people will go their entire lives without ever stopping to really look at it. So the question I want to leave you with is pretty simple. Will you?